Hey, what's good, guys? Welcome back to another awesome weekly market forecast. Great to have you guys back on the channel. Now, for this week's weekly market forecast, guys, we're going to be going through 4 different pairs: Aussie CAD being the first, Aussie Swiss franc being second, Aussie JPY being third, and New Zealand dollar yen being the last pair that we're going to have a look at for this week's weekly market forecast. Now, to get started, guys, we're going to go straight into Aussie CAD. We're going to be starting off on the daily, and what we can observe from a daily perspective is we generally just have this nice, beautiful upside momentum over here from a nice higher time frame. And after price action has given us this nice momentum to the upside, we've seen price action entering some sort of a corrective structure towards the downside. Now, obviously, we are concluding that it is a descending structure because we do see lows, highs, we then see lower lows, we then see lower highs being formed in this overall structure. So we can conclude that it is some sort of a descending structure. Now, because we do observe that the momentum is to the upside on our left hand side, we generally want to be trading in the direction of this higher time frame momentum that we have on our charts. So what we can see by isolating this corrective structure is that we do have nice 3-touch structure. This being our nice first touch of our structure, this being the second touch of the structure. And obviously, we can expect price action to come down to this area over here, where we can expect that nice, beautiful third touch for our upside momentum. So we've got a nice bullish directional bias, or we can derive a beautiful point of interest for us to begin to start looking for those bullish bias setups. Now, what we're going to be doing for ourselves is we're just going to kind of zoom in just a little bit more, just so that we can clearly see what's going on here as price action is approaching the touch region. Now, what we can conclude about this price action is that we can't say that maybe it's corrective price action. We can't say that it's really impulsive price action because it looks kind of choppy. Now, what we've done to save ourselves the trouble of trying to guess the structure is we've simply taken into account our extreme highs, being these areas over here, and obviously the extreme lows that we have on our chart, being able to isolate a nice descending structure. Now, within this descending structure, we do understand that we have a sexy, absolutely beautiful first touch over here, nice second touch over there, and we have this beautiful third touch region in this area that kind of also converges with that other higher time frame structure that we discussed, with this area here being a potential zone for that nice, beautiful third touch. So we do understand that from a higher time frame, we have loads of probabilities waiting for us if price action does approach this area here. Obviously, we can be looking as to how does price action actually get to this area, and what does price action do at this area for us to be looking for our bullish bias setups. So guys, on Aussie CAD, unfortunately, it's going to be one of those setups where we might have to exercise some patience. Although we will go down onto the 4-hour and discuss the 4-hour, we might just have to exercise some patience for us to see our higher time frame setup actually playing out. But otherwise, coming into a 4-hour, what we can observe is that price action is still in a downtrend. Looking at our extreme resistance areas, isolating that nice trend line, resistance trend line, we can see that price action is still below our 4-hour extreme resistance, meaning we're still inside of this 4-hour corrective downtrend. Otherwise, what can we be doing? Because we are still in the downtrend, the safest thing for us to do to be looking for our higher time frame, I guess, bias, directional bias, which is obviously bullish in this case, the safest thing that we can do is wait for price action to either come down to give us a double bottom structure, maybe in this zone over here for that long opportunity, or maybe if we get a failure of price action to maybe stop at these lower structures here, then what we can be looking for is maybe for price action to come down to give us that amazing third touch of structure before we look for our momentum to the upside. Conclusion being is that, simple enough, guys, we're going to be looking for, we've got a beautiful point of interest right below a level of structure. So to make our job fairly simple, all we need to do is we need to look for our reversal structures down low below the support structure here, whether it's a double bottom structure, doesn't really matter. And if we fail to find reversal structures down low at our nice point of interest, higher time frame confluence area, where we see both 4-hour, or rather we see both daily support and we see both weekly support converging in this area, we wait for those reversal structures to give us entries down low. Otherwise, we wait for momentum to push price action back above our level of structure, where obviously we'll be looking for continuations as long as we're back above this level of structure here. So guys, simple enough, all we're waiting for is just for price action to come down and give us that beautiful third touch entry, at which we'll then start to look for our bullish bias setups. So on Aussie CAD, guys, we are seeing some sort of a corrective structure forming in this area here. So maybe this is good for us in terms of us waiting, exercising patience for price action to actually come down and give us that entry in our high value area. So let's exercise a little bit of patience on this bullish setup on Aussie CAD. Otherwise, let's go on to our Aussie Swiss franc. So we'll start off on the daily for Aussie Swiss franc. Now what we can conclude here from a daily perspective is that we do have some momentum to the upside. We've got an overall corrective structure here. We've got more momentum to the upside, and we've got a new corrective structure here. We can observe that this overall larger corrective structure has not completed at the 90% rule yet, and so there is or could be a potential objective for a nice impulse correction and impulse towards our third touch area over here. So that being our overall consensus, or at least a general understanding of what's happening on that higher time frame, let's just zoom in a little bit more just so that we can have a look at just the most recent price action. Now in this most recent price action, we've obviously got some momentum here on our left hand side, giving us this nice impulsive move that managed to break our level of structure. After that nice momentum, we've got this awesome corrective structure over here, giving us a nice, or rather setting us up in areas where we can find some nice bullish buy setups. Now, if we take a look at the setup, this overall corrective structure here, we see our support areas over there being violated, price action pushing back above. We see our new support structures there being violated, price action could be pushing back above. We already see signs of rejection in this area, same as our previous support area. We saw a sign of rejection before we saw that momentum actually come into the market, sending price action higher. Now what we're going to be doing is expecting something sort of similar on Aussie Swiss franc, especially now that we're going on onto the 4 hour to observe a little bit of the nature of what's been going on here and this overall structure. On the 4 hour, what we can see is that we obviously do see, yes, price action gave us lows, we do have highs, we've got lower lows, we've got lower highs, and then obviously we've got lower lows. So conclusion being, yes, price is in some sort of a downtrend, but we are in a corrective downtrend. Simple enough, meaning that yes, we can begin to at least start looking for some risk entries for that nice bullish momentum. Now on a 4 hour, just to come to the most recent price action, just so that we can observe a little bit about what's going on here, let's just zoom into the most recent price action. Now in the most recent price action, what we can see is that price action has come to our area of value, our nice third touch area where we are looking for bullish buy setups. We have come to this nice third touch area fairly impulsively. Since we've come here impulsively, what we need to be doing to actually enter or involve ourselves into this trade is in this area over here. We should be looking for a formation, or for the formation of a reversal structure, be it a double top, be it a descending structure, be it an inverse head and shoulders. Regardless of the nature of the structure that forms, what we want to see is we want to see a reversal structure that forms, that allows us to enter on any bullish momentum that might be giving us an entry to the upside. That's kind of what we want to see here to be able to enter our longs into Aussie Swiss franc. So once again, maybe another AUD base pair that we're looking for a bullish buy setup. Since we're seeing a lot of momentum to the downside on these AUD base pairs, we're going to be waiting for our reversal structures to kind of guarantee that we're not entering this market at the wrong time, and also just to make sure that kind of we get the best opportunity to buy or sell whenever we're taking risk with our own capital. Otherwise, guys, into Aussie Swiss franc, we've got a nice bullish buy setup. All we're waiting for, we've got a point of interest. What I would like to see is for price action to come a little bit lower, just to these support structures over here. If we get anywhere close to these support structures more, especially if we come down to our support trend line, guys, in that case, I want to be as bullish as I can be, especially depending on the type of structure that ends up developing as we approach these high value areas over there. But otherwise, guys, conclusion being is that we are looking for a nice, beautiful bullish buy setup here on Aussie Swiss franc. We're at that point of interest now. All we need to be waiting for is entry criteria to at least maybe try and ride this trade to the 90% rule of this smaller structure that we see got going on there. We'll be able to get in at a nice point of interest. We'll be able to get out basically at a nice point of interest over here. So otherwise, nice bullish bias on Aussie Swiss franc. Let's see if we can find that nice bullish entry there. Let's go on to our next pair, and that is AJ. So AJ, what we're going to do is we're going to start off on a daily, just observe a little bit about what's going on here from a higher time frame. Now basically here on a higher time frame AJ, what we can see is that we do have this overall ascending structure over here, nice and bullish ascending structure. We've got our first touch, we've got our second touch. We can see price action was at our third touch. What happened is we came here fairly impulsively, we slowed down, and now we're reacting from this area over here. So basically, nice third touch area over there. We're already seeing some sellers being involved at this third touch area, sending prices down lower. So now let's come in, let's just zoom in a little bit more, just get an idea of what's going on now in just the most recent price action. In the most recent price action, guys, after we got that nice beautiful that touch, what we see is some formation of some sort of a head and shoulder structure, where we have our left shoulder, obviously our head, and then we've got that right shoulder, and then we see a nice violation below the neckline. Obviously, we could be expecting that reduced risk entry in formation of some sort of a break and a retest of a neckline. And so that's the type of setup that we're going to be looking for. Since we already do see on a daily time frame momentum to the downside that has been able to violate our support structures, we are going to be trading in the direction of at least most recent daily momentum on our smaller time frames. Now, coming down to the 4-hour, let's just observe a little bit about the nature of what's going on here. How is price action actually delivering what we see? So basically, 4-hour, what we do see some characteristics of a nice downtrend where we have extreme highs, we've got new lows, we've got lower highs, and obviously we've got lower lows. So beautiful characteristics of a downtrend. What we're expecting, since we do see characteristics of a downtrend, is some type of formation of a lower high before we see maybe price action completing objectives of violating supports and maybe giving us a lower low. So that's kind of the setup that we're going to be looking for, looking to trade in the direction of this momentum that we're seeing coming into the market there. We were at that touch now, and obviously we have the opportunity to look for some beautiful reduced risk entries on AUDJPY. So all we're going to be doing for the type of setup that we're going to have a look at here is we do see this resistance trend line over here that we've taken into account our extreme highs, which obviously is a point of interest, is an area of value. And what we do have here is we have an origin of some momentum. We have this beautiful pin bar sending prices down, breaking, being able to at least violate some support structures over there. So we see a nice source of momentum. So what we're going to be looking for is we're going to be waiting for price action to make its way either to our double top area over here, or maybe even to our convergence area, where we see both this resistance trend line and our horizontal resistance area here converging in this area here. Regardless of where price action chooses to terminate, whether at the double top region or whether at this resistance trend line, we will be looking for that downside continuation, hopefully to play through or to follow through on whatever smaller time frame structure is going to be developing inside of there. And also our higher time frame daily objectives of us maybe coming down to give a nice test of previous resistance that price action has broken above fairly impulsively. So we've got nice reasons why we want to be bearish bias at this current moment in time. We've got some beautiful points of interest just being at this resistance area. Once we have a resistance and a point of interest, it makes our job so simple, because we use this resistance area over here as a nice beautiful reference that if price action is above this resistance area, we look for our reversal structures. If we are below this resistance area, then we look for our continuation structures for that momentum that we're looking to take all the way to the downside. So our job becomes fairly simple. We know exactly what we're doing on AJ next week. Nice and bearish bias, looking to follow through on all of the sell side momentum that we've been seeing on these JPY code pairs. At least we've got a setup on AJ, so we won't be missing any of that going into next week. So otherwise, guys, let's get into the last pair that we're going to have a look at for this week's weekly market forecast, and that is New Zealand dollar yen. We will be starting off on a daily. I absolutely love this pair, especially since it's a JPY code pair. And these JPY code pairs were a little bit unstable, or at least just not right for me personally to be taking action on these pairs, and I feel like they're setting up a little bit more. As you guys can see, next week we're looking at 2 JPY code pairs, so that means we've got something good going on for us in terms of how these JPY code pairs are setting up and the way the structures are developing now, and our overall bias that we've been having for a couple of weeks. But otherwise, getting into the structure here on New Zealand dollar yen, we do have this overall ascending structure over here. Ascending structure has given us a resistance, nice first touch over there, nice large second touch, or you can say second and third touch if you wanna, doesn't really matter, multi-touch area. We have a resistance trend line. We then come obviously and give this nice third touch or fourth touch, whatever you want to call it. We touch or we retest this resistance trend line over there. Now if we come just into the most recent price action here on a daily, what we can see, or what we will see, is price action kind of stalled a little bit on as we came into, or as we violated this resistance trend line. Maybe we'll see a little bit more clear on the 4-hour, but nonetheless, we had an ascending structure over here. We then see momentum. We see a whole lot of sellers being involved in this price action, sending prices down, and that's kind of what we want to see. Other information that we can grab from New Zealand dollar yen is that we've got previous resistance that price action has broken above fairly impulsively, that we have now broken back below. So what we could be looking for is a nice beautiful retest of this previous level of structure that we've broken above and broken below. Now what we can see is that price action kind of has retested this area. In a way, we've got a nice bearish engulfing candlestick on a daily time frame of this resistance area. So what should we be looking for? To be safe, we should be looking for a potential highest sell. What information further can we derive here from our daily? What we can see here from a daily is that we do have some minor levels of structure. We've got price action coming in from the top, creating some support, and then obviously we see price action violating that support with a lot of momentum. So what we can look for is to trade the retest of this previous support that has been broken with a lot of momentum that price action quite has not retested as yet. So now going down onto the 4 hour, now that we have a nice beautiful bearish directional bias and discussed where we could be trading, where we could find our highest sell on that 4 hour, guys, we've got this this test of our area here giving us a level of structure. What do we have here? We do have another level of structure, some resistance area over there, obviously the source of momentum that we do see a nice pin over there. But remember the break and the retest of our previous daily support that has been broken impulsively and not quite retested. We have an origin, a source of momentum. We can see where did some momentum come in all of this stuff that was going on here. Yes, momentum came in from up top over here, but we came in, we tested that momentum or that area, the point of origin where that momentum came from, and we moved away from that area. This area over here, we've got this nice pin bar over there, so giving us a nice extreme high and extreme low, giving us some sort of characteristics of a range. The closer we are to the extreme high or the level of structure, the more we want to be looking for our sell bias trading opportunities. So that makes our job fairly simple, guys. We do either have a potential double top structure that might form in this area over here, as in this being our first peak, this being our second peak, and giving us an opportunity to sell. Otherwise, if we do not see price action maybe reacting and giving us an entry from here, we've got our point of interest up here where we could be expecting that maybe price action wants to come into this area here before we move for that overall sell bias trading setup that we do see here from a daily. So what we're going to be doing, guys, is we're going to be sell bias, kind of paying attention to just two zones only. First being this resistance area here, this potential double top area here, and obviously if our trading setup fails in this area here and we do see a nice violation above these highs, then we will be looking to trade our sell bias setups in our point of interest just above the origin of this sell side momentum that we do see here, just this pin bar over here. So otherwise, guys, now that we've simplified things, we have a level of structure, we have a point of interest up there, our job becomes fairly simple. We look for our reversal structures above our resistance area. If we don't find double tops, head and shoulder structures, ascending structures up there, we wait for momentum to push price action back below this level of structure here so that we can trade the reduced risk entries in form of nice corrective retests of this level of structure, and then we still hold through on our overall bearish directional bias with a much better entry in terms of the amount of risk we're going to be taking. Otherwise, guys, nice bearish directional bias here on New Zealand dollar yen. We have reached the conclusion of this week's weekly market forecast. So of the 4 pairs, guys, three pairs are AUD based pairs. We do have a bullish bias on AUDCAD, we do have a bullish bias on AUD Swiss franc, and a bearish bias on AUDJPY. So my advice in terms of taking risk on these pairs would definitely be trade them like they are individual pairs. But then again, if you are buying one AUD based pair and selling another AUD based pair, then obviously you're going to be in a way hedging that position. So just make sure that you go into that trade thinking about your risk and how you can still exit the trade, the overall position, your overall week at a positive. Always remember that the numbers that you can control, or the numbers that are in your control, are the way that you approach and engage with risk. That part of your system you can control. The outcome, how the setup will play out, what's going to happen, how you're going to manage that trade, all of those things are things that unfortunately are not under your control. So guys, let's prepare ourselves. I'm glad that you guys are part of this weekly market forecast, meaning that you guys are just as prepared as I am based off the pairs that we've discussed. You guys know exactly where I would like to find a trade and exactly in which direction, when price gets to that point of interest, am I going to be looking to execute. All that's left, guys, is for us to exercise some patience and just wait for price action to come and give us what we're expecting. Let the probabilities play out. If we do see our setups, let's pull the trigger and we trade through the statistics. Otherwise, I wish you guys a very profitable week. I'm feeling absolutely great about this week. I'm feeling like this week is a money week. I'm feeling absolutely amazing. Hopefully this amazing feeling that I'm feeling about next week does rub onto you guys. But otherwise, do subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. Do give this video a like if you did get some value from the video, if you did enjoy the content. Otherwise, this is T.Mayne. I will see you guys in the future videos. Have a great week, guys. Cheers.